Welcome back to the Perky Collar Radio Show here at WDRB Media. I'm your host, David M. Frankel, and my guest today is Ron McGarity from M-Clip. Ron, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Excellent, Ron. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a very busy schedule. And to give you a little background on Ron and I met in Chicago at the Chicago Collective, and I was very impressed with his money clips and the ways he's modified them to be so much more useful. So, Ron, give us a couple minutes of why you decided to modify the money clip and a little bit about the business.
Sure, and thanks for having me. It's pleasure to be here.
My pleasure.
Years ago, I've always been a money clip guy. I've never carried a wallet, and never could find one that really worked well. They didn't hold enough, and they would usually stretch open when you put any normal amount of content in it, like a few cards and some bills. So I decided to kind of play around with an idea of making one, and I found that the little binder clips, I think I call them alligator clips, with the black body and the little arms that flip back and forth, made a great money clip, and I used that for a long time. And then one day I was piddling around with it and thinking about some ways to enhance it, and I came up with the idea of making the little arms slide into and out of the body of the clip instead of flipping back and forth. So it would be a nice, flat, smooth feel in your pocket. And just worked on it for a long time and developed the idea and got it patented, and then sought out to find manufacturers to make it for me.
Good for you. And what year did you...
That was about 15 years ago.
15 years ago. Wow. So that's quite a long process. So
yeah, well, it took about 3 years to get it from my pencil sketches to the actual first run of production.
And I think it's very important for our viewers and listeners to understand is that it's so exciting as an inventor to have a great idea and have the sketches, and it's incredibly painful to wait until you have a physical working prototype or a physical product you can actually put in the hands of your consumers. I know I was very anxious. I was very anxious and said, okay, well, how much longer does it take? But between the sketches and the prototypes and different materials, it just takes time. And for you, it was 3 years. For me, it was about 1.5 years. But it's still, every day is painful. So I can only imagine, since you had to wait twice as long as I did, how grueling that was to continue to wait. And you're still working your full-time job, I'm assuming, waiting for this prototype to become reality.
That's exactly right. I was in the banking business at the time, trying to keep a full-time job there without working too much on the money clip where I might get fired. But
everyone can relate to that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the hardest part for us was to find a company or several companies that would do the machining we needed to make the quality level we were after. We decided that when we first started, we were going to make not just another money clip, because there were dozens of those out there, and we decided to make the best one you could buy. And in fact, our trademark tagline is the world's finest money clip, and we've used that for about 15 years, and we truly believe that. And but we went through a number of companies and a lot of frustration, a lot of money spent to try to make it come together, and finally we found a couple good partners that could do the work right, and we've basically been with them ever since.
Very good. And give us an idea of how people can find out more about the money clips, or a website or social media, so people can check you out.
We have a Facebook page, and we also, our main source of information would be our website. Okay. And it's www.mclip.com, and and there's a dash. It's m-clip.com.
Okay. M as in money, hyphen,
right,
and then clip, CLIP.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is it on Facebook? Is it also M-Clip, or?
It is.
Okay, very good. Yep. And on the website, it shows off all the different types you have and different. So walk us through kind of the different styles and different types of money clips that you have.
When we first started, we only had what we call our signature collection, which is a jewelry quality finish piece with alligator or mother of pearl inlays, retails at a higher price point, around the $250 point. And then over time, we gradually started adding other price points to bring it down to a point where we could service more customers. We have a mid-price point, which is all stainless steel, which has carbon fiber inlays and some different finishes on it. That's a very popular group. Those are around $120 retail. And then the third price point is our entry level, which is an all aluminum piece, and it's at a $79.95 price point.
Excellent.
And they all work the same. They all have the same basic components. The difference in price is basically how much handwork we've got to do on it, whether it's polished or we have to cut the alligator and the mother of pearl and so forth.
And it's great, I think, that you have 3 different price points. People that really want to invest in a money clip don't have to be afraid of investing because they can't necessarily afford the top of the line one. They can start with kind of the intro or the economy style, and they can upgrade as time goes on, and they financially can afford to invest in a nicer one.
Exactly. And the ultralight piece is made of aluminum. A lot of people like a lighter weight one, and it works every bit as well as our $250 piece.
Huh.
And but we use the same components and the same design. We just don't have as much energy and money spent on finishing it, and it's quicker to cut on our CNC machines.
I see.
Because it's made out of aluminum instead of stainless.
Excellent.
But our website is a great source of information. You can actually order on there as well, or you can always call our customer service department in Savannah, where we're based.
Excellent. Savannah, Georgia. Was just there. Great city.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Can you give us a little background on maybe a moment in the last 15 years that was a real struggle for you, or maybe a down point per se? Because I think as an entrepreneur, we all watch Shark Tank, and it's great when your business is worth $1 million and so on and so forth. But I think a lot of those people don't hear about the struggles they went through or the difficulties they ran into. And I think a lot of people just quit and go back to their full-time job because they hit that obstacle. And obviously you kept pushing them forward. Give us an example of a low point and you weren't sure if you're going to continue, and a high point that was maybe a big order, or you got into a big retailer or something like that.
Well, I'd say the low point was at the beginning when we had so many frustrations and disappointments with companies that claimed to be able to produce the component parts the way we needed them, to the machining accuracy we need. Our product is unique in that it's got a patented sliding lever design, so it opens and closes with these little leverage bars that come in and out. And we have about a 2,000th of an inch sliding tolerance, and a lot of companies said they could maintain that for us, but they couldn't, and that was extremely frustrating. We went through at least 5 or 6 companies before we settled on a couple that could actually do the work for us, and that was very, very frustrating.
Oh, I can imagine.
But we knew it was out. We knew people were out there that could do it right, and we just kept looking, and finally we're fortunate enough to find a couple people that could do it for us, and that would be one of the low points. And the other one would be when we would order literally thousands of component parts on a big order, and they come in wrong. They're cut wrong. That was a pretty bad afternoon when we got a shipment in of, I'd say, 10,000 different pieces, and none of them worked. So that was a bad day. But fortunately, the company we worked with was a reputable firm, and they stood behind their work, and they were willing to work with us on correcting it, and we kept moving forward with them. Everybody makes a mistake every now and then.
Sure. Well, it's great that they were willing to take it back and redo it. And, and so on and so forth. So I would assume at this point, on your low point, it was more about patience and persistence, because if you didn't have the patience, I think you just kind of throw in the towel and say, it's just not meant to be. But you hung in there and said, I know someone can do this right. I just got to find the right company. And I'm sure it was a financial frustration too, not just, hey, this is the wrong product, I can't sell yet. It was also, hey, I'm out the initial investment or the prototypes or whatever your finance, whatever your, it would be shipping or the product itself. You had some financial in the game that was a loss, and that's frustrating.
Of course. And equally as frustrating as that is the time that you lose.
Sure.
And you think you've got it completely figured out, and then you hand that over to a company that you believe will get it done right, and you wait several weeks, and then you get it, and it's not as you expected, and that's always very, very frustrating.
Now, on top of that, did you have pre-selling?
Persistent. I'm sorry?
On top of that, did you have pre-selling going on too, or you also had to talk to your customers, let them know, hey, it should have been here by now, but it's not the quality we want. I apologize. I appreciate your patience. We'll get it out to you as soon as possible. So that's a whole nother low point as well, to deal with the customer service, and that's their first experience with you, and you want it to be a good one.
Yep. You sound like you worked for us for some time frame.
Yeah, well, I've done this show long enough.
Been there, it sounds like.
I've been through it myself.
There is a lot of frustration, but there's a lot of rewards that come with it. When you finally succeed, you have a real good sense of accomplishment, and it's one of those things when you get a project finished and you reach the expectations that you had, you feel like everybody played a good role in it and pulled together and made something good happen. So it's there are down days and there are up days, as in any business. But I think in a small business like ours, you tend to be so involved with so many things and you wear so many different hats that you may have 4 or 5 great things that happen one day and then a couple bad things that are not what you had planned on. But overall, over time, it tends to work itself out if you're patient and work hard and have good people that work with you.
Exactly right. And it sounds like you knew exactly what you wanted. And I'm sure the customers, even though they're frustrated that they couldn't get the order filled at the time they wanted, they were happy that you had such great quality control that you said, you know what, this is not to my level expectations. I'm not just going to ship you something just to fill the order. I want you to have exactly what I had in mind. And I'm sure when they finally did get the product, they're like, wow, this is beautiful. This is impressive. And we're glad we waited for the right thing.
Well, you can't very well claim to be the best out there if you're not the best. And
it's good for you.
If you want to carry that mantra, you better be able to back it up. And you don't want to send something out that customers are disappointed with or not pleased with, because so much of our growth has been dependent on word of mouth advertising. Sure. We really don't spend any real advertising dollars to speak of, other than some social media work and trade shows like the one I met you at a few weeks ago. And so much of what we owe to our success is based on good customer feedback and good customer relations. And we have a number of wholesale customers that we pick up simply because they own a jewelry store or men's clothing store or some other retail store, and a friend of theirs had one of our products and they just bragged about it and said, if you're not selling this, you need to. So we're grateful for that. That's
a great feeling when a retail store calls you and says, I need your product. You become the hunted instead of the hunter. I use that phrase a lot because it's a grind getting into stores. When the stores start calling you, it's like, man, what a relief. And we only have about a minute or two left. But give me a great success story, maybe a great retailer that called you and said, hey, so glad. I would love to have your product, or a big order that you received. Give me something that really got your juices flowing, your heart pumping. The adrenaline rush.
I'll tell you a good story, and it kind of relates back to what I just described. We were at a trade show in New York. There was a very small trade show. It was called the Haberdashery Show.
Okay.
It was a very small men's clothing show, like the one in Chicago, but about half that size. And we had just started getting into some of the better men's stores. We'd been working with jewelry stores around the country, and then we got into some men's clothing stores. And a good friend of mine owned a men's cufflink company, and one of his largest customers was Nordstrom. And he was in another area of the building, and he had one of our money clips. And he had a meeting with Nordstrom, and the 3 buyers from Nordstrom were in his booth writing an order for fall, and they happened to notice his money clip for somehow. Wow. And he told them about it, and he had one of my business cards there in his booth, and he handed it to the buyer at Nordstrom. And so about that afternoon, I'm standing there at the booth waiting for hopefully customers to come by. And this guy comes walking up, holding my business card out in front of him, saying, "I need to meet this gentleman right here." and he walked up, and
that's me.
That was about. I said, "That happens to be me," and that was about 12 years ago, and they are still a very fine, very good customer of ours.
That's great. I mean, those success stories are fantastic. Right place, right time.
And there again, right place, right time, and. Fortunately, we had a customer, being the friend of mine, that believed in our product, and he was kind enough to show it to the Nordstrom buyers, and we started with them, and we've been there ever since.
That's a beautiful thing. Referrals, collaboration, that's what it's all about. And those of you that are watching and listening to the show, help someone out. Help a fellow entrepreneur out. Help a fellow business owner out, because you never know how it comes back to you. Full speed ahead. So, Ron, as we're wrapping up, remind us of the website, m-clip.com. Is that correct?
Right, that's correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Did you have any? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you for spending a few minutes with us, and we appreciate you giving us an opportunity to tell our story.
Oh, my pleasure. And I think it's an incredible story. It talks about the grind, talks about the ups and downs, And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs and inventors out there have a lot they can learn from your story. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us in this interview. And I hope everyone takes a look at the website and order some money clips today.
That would be great. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure, sir. And you are listening to the Perky Collar Radio Show. And we'll be right back after the break.